Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Chandrika Nandini, and this is my partner, Neha Buzan. And today we'll be presenting a Changemakers project in collaboration with the Department of Statistics titled What Promotes Experiential Learning. So before we dig deep into this, I would like to thank our project proposal by Dr. Marcus Barado. He's been really helpful in getting alumni to help us with the respondents and everything. He has been a huge support through the entirety of this project, and also Dr. Madeline for quite literally holding our hand throughout all of it and backing us up through every single step. So to talk about what our project is. So over the past few months, we've been investigating how well MSc data and statistics related courses here at LSE prepare students for real world jobs, especially through hands-on and applied learning experiences. And we spoke to a bunch of recent alumni, and today we'll walk you through exactly what we found out. So to talk about what our motivation behind the project, we begin by addressing the core issue of that our research tackles. It's basically the mismatch between academic training and the demands from the data industry. What exactly the data industry expects from data science graduates or MSc statistics related graduates. So while MSc programs provide a very, very strong theoretical foundation, and it's not necessarily exactly what you expect when you go to the industry. They also have a lot of cleaned data sets to work with, and the scenarios are very controlled. It's very systematic, especially when you're at uni. And you're learning through courses, and the teacher assigns you exactly this is a project that you're going to work on. This is your research question, and this is how you're going to go about it. So it's very systematic. But in real world, in the industry, it's very chaotic, it's very ambiguous, and it's always evolving. So basically, our study focuses on how this disconnect affects student preparedness and how we use experiential learning to close that gap. So what is experiential learning? So to sum it up in one specific sentence, it's gaining knowledge through action. So it's basically experimenting exactly what you've learned. So one very clear definition that's given by COBE is the COBE's framework. It's basically how you learn from experience, you reflect on what you've learned, you formulate concepts around it, and you basically apply it, which is experimentation. So in data-related fields, this loosely translates to handling with really messy data, coming up with models that really help you understand and analyze this data, and essentially using tools that help you come to that analysis, which are like Cloud, GitHub, Python, AWS, and many more, and Docker as well. So our project uses this specific experiential learning to evaluate LSE's MSc curriculum. So we have 5 key research objectives. First one is how well experiential learning is embedded in the MSc curriculum. The second is measure the alignment between course content and industry expectations. The third is identify which specific skills show the largest gap in coverage or preparedness among the alumni. The fourth is analyze qualitative alumni feedback to learn what teaching methods worked or didn't. And the final one is propose targeted data-driven recommendations to enhance the curriculum's experiential learning competence. So now I request you have to take over with the methodology.
Thank you, Chandrika. In our research methodology, we chose to use a mixed methods approach where we merged the quantitative and the qualitative data together. So we started by designing a survey. We had 23 questions, and we targeted the cohort of alumni that had around 82 participants. We collected the data and we split it into 2 different types. The quantitative data was used to measure the metrics that we will be talking about further later in the presentation. And the qualitative data was used to back up those findings on the quantitative side and to provide a more in-depth, more in-depth more in-depth results on what we actually were working on. In our cohort of participants, as you can see from this graph, the majority are recent graduates between 0 to 2 years of experience after graduation. And that is very important because we're actually trying to assess and analyze LSE curriculum as it is right now. So the cohort had to be up to date with what is going on at LSE right now. And that actually, that was very important for our analysis. So what are these metrics and how did we calculate the scores? The first one is the skill coverage gap score, the SCGS. And that basically, that is the difference between the importance of the skill in the industry and how well it was covered at LSE. In our survey, we had 2 questions for 13 different skills that we picked in data science. The first one is how well did your coursework at that specific skill at LSE prepare you for your job? We gave it a skill, and that represents the alumni preparedness variable. And the second question is how important is this skill for a data science job? And that is the industry importance variable. On the other hand, the perceived readiness gap score represents the difference between how confident an alumni is in a specific skill upon graduation and how much time and effort they invested in that specific skill after graduation. And that is represented by the self-learning effort variable and the alumni preparedness variable. So in this chart, you can see the results for both the SCGS and the PRGS. The pink bars represent the industry gap, how well a skill was covered at LSE, and how much important it is for the industry, while the blue bars represent the readiness gap, basically how much did the alumni invest in learning that specific skill after graduation. And it is very obvious that the biggest gap is found in data engineering, quantitative communication, how to talk to stakeholders that are non-technical and represent data in a very easy way, as well as ethical AI and fairness in AI, while the smallest gaps were found in machine learning and AI and statistical inference. And we can tell you from our experience as me and Chandrika, those 2 fields are covered very, very well by LSE because they're theoretical. Now, we tried to back that data with qualitative analysis, and we found some very interesting results, which basically back up the score results. The first one is that most alumni emphasized on a huge disconnect between academic tasks and industry expectations. They felt underprepared when it comes to actually using those tools in their companies in the actual industry. And they said that LSE overemphasized on R as a programming language, which is not used by the industry at all, especially right now. And they also said that we lacked, as LSE students, exposure to real-world data, which is very messy, it's very ambiguous, has nothing to do with the clean data sets that we're using in our coursework. Most emphasized on the idea that we need to learn how to talk to stakeholders, stakeholder communication, and to present well as work with ambiguity within the problem definition and the actual results. One of the remarks from one hiring manager that we got was being more holistic thinkers, focusing heavily on communicating to non-technical stakeholders are all differentiating skills I look at as a manager.
Thank you. So to talk more about the advice from alumni. So this is more of like thematic analysis because this is related to the qualitative data that we received. So 3 main frameworks stood out that the advice from alumni. The first one is proactive learning. They urged the current students to not just work on the course curriculum, but also do your independent stuff. Learn on your own. Go out there and see what else is there that you're missing out on, not just what's covered in your classes. And most of them also did say that some support from LSE would have been helpful, maybe through the LSE Digital Skills Lab, to provide additional electives or additional courses on Docker or AWS or Azure and many other tools like Git and Python. The second one is strategic preparation. You should really know what the game is like before you enter the game, right? So that is essentially what they were trying to tell here, like define your career goals in the very beginning, know what you're getting into, and align your electives to target exactly which career path you want to pick. The third and the final main advice that we got from them is institutional support. Respondents suggested hosting mock interviews, workshops, inviting alumni speakers. The alumni really wanted something of a stronger connection or stronger bond between them as students and the current alumni that are out there, or the most recent alumni. That way they would get a more hands-on, practical, and direct approach as to what they should be expecting and what they can do to better themselves. And to give you more of like an authentic sense of what exactly they advised, one of the alumni said, and I quote, "More guidance on how electives connect to real jobs would have saved a lot of time. Oxford sends internship prep emails before the term starts. LSU should consider that." So we have 5 key recommendations based on our findings. One is redesign capstone projects to mimic real-world team workflows with raw data sets. Personally, as an MSc data science student, I have a capstone project, and my capstone project doesn't really have a lot to do with what exactly the real messy data that you deal with in the industry. Mine is very research heavy based, and a lot of alumni think so too. They didn't really have a lot of hands-on experience as to exactly how the real world works in terms of like taking up these research heavy or coding heavy projects. So the second recommendation is introduce skill-focused labs as tools like Git, Docker, and cloud deployment. So this is something that we can introduce with the Digital Skills Lab. They could always add in more courses that the students can optionally select for themselves in their free time. They could go and whenever they want to focus, they want to learn something new and align themselves to the industry, they could always go do that. The third recommendation that we have is develop an elective to role map to help students navigate their career. Not only the electives that you choose define what career path you're going to go through, it also gives you a lot of understanding as to what exactly you've studied and how it's going to link your understanding between the compulsory modules, the electives, and the industry. The fourth recommendation is launch early career readiness sessions before the term begins. We would like to, and based on the alumni's responses as well, the students would really like to understand what they're getting into at the very beginning of the term so they can manage their time accordingly and prep and guide their way, not just for the career after, but also through the whole year at LSE. And the final recommendation that we have is facilitate alumni student mentorship programs for ongoing peer professional support. A direct link between current students and alumni would be really, really beneficial and help the students really feel more confident in not just taking up their course, but also understand the UK economy's job market and see if they can even navigate their way through this, or if it's just better for them to go in a different direction. So we've come to the end of the presentation, and thank you so much for your time and attention. To conclude, our findings highlight that while LSE's curriculum is very theoretically strong and builds a very strong foundation in the understanding of the concepts, there are clear opportunities to embed more experiential and industry-aligned components. Bridging the gap between the coursework and the realities of the workplace isn't just about teaching tools. It's about designing learning experiences that reflect real-world ambiguity, chaos, and scale. We hope our project could really contribute meaningful to ongoing conversations about how to develop more in the curriculum at LSE, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for listening.
So much. Would you like to take a seat? And
oh yeah, sure. They can go ahead.
Yeah, and then we can take some questions. I'll just stop sharing.